We won't even get it.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome here, everyone. And at this time, I'd like to give the opening to Councillor Jake Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This year we celebrate 150 years since the Mennonites arrived from southern Russia to settle on the East Reserve, which included Steinbach. In 1871, the Russian government announced that the Mennonites would no longer be granted military exemption. They felt that a sacred trust had been broken, and many of the Mennonites decided to immigrate elsewhere. Both Canada and the USA were open to opening up huge tracts of land for settlement. The Canadian government asked a German businessman by the name of William Hespler to go to Russia in 1872 and encourage the Mennonites to come to Manitoba. In 1873, a delegation was sent to find suitable tract of land capable of supporting a large migration. The delegation arrived in June of 1873. It was not encouraging, as they had much rain, bugs, and problems getting through the bogs to reach the East Reserve, set aside for the Mennonites. They did agree to immigrate in the end and committed to moving 200 families in 1874. The federal government agreed to grant any person who is head of a family or has obtained the age of 21 shall be entitled to a quarter section consisting of 160 acres. They also agreed to furnish the Mennonite, the passengers, warrants of $30 per adult, $15 for those over the age of 8, and $3 for infants for making the trip, for agreeing to immigrate. They arrived via steamboat up the Red River from Fargo, landing at the junction of the Rat and the Red River, and then finding their way to what was to be known Steinbach in September of 1874. Backing it up a bit, in 1870, the Provisional Manitoba Government of Riel had negotiated a Métis land settlement for 1.4 million acres. The first parcel of that agreement was the St. Anne Parish, just north of us. South of the Métis settlement in St. Anne was the new Clear Spring settlement, which is directly north of us here in Steinbach. The land in southeastern Manitoba at that time had no First Nation settlements, but was the hunting grounds for the Ojibwe, and at times the Cree that would come south from the north. In 1869, the first Clear Spring settlers were John and Martha Mack from southern Ontario, squatting on land north of, along what is today's Old Tom Road. Other settlers chose sites close to water, timber, and open meadows. And surveyors arrived in 1872 to provide landholding title agreements for all the new immigrants. And those squatting on land received first homestead rights. Clear Spring area grew rapidly as different homesteaders arrived, mostly from southern Ontario, where land was already at a premium, and the call of adventure to discover what's new out west. Many of the Clear Spring settlers didn't come by boat or by, like the Mennonites did, up from Fargo. They came by way of the Dawson Road, which was had been built to get the military here for the Riel, the Civil War that was going on. A story from 1873 states, a wagon load of German-speaking men dressed in black emerged from the poplars and introduced themselves to Bertha Mack, who, to their surprise, replied in English or in German. This was the advanced Mennonite and Hutterite Land Scouts delegation. So it was amazing that we had German-speaking people to the north of us, what is in Clear Spring. With the Mennonites arriving in September of 1874, they quickly became good neighbors to the new settlers in Steinbach. The Clear Spring settlers and the new Steinbach village joined together in establishing a syndicate, threshing machines and sawmills, and different enterprises. With Steinbach being the progressive village, they opened a store, a grist mill, and flour mill. Trading provided great relief to the early settlers who previously had to go to Hudson Bay store at St. Anne or all the way to Fort Garry in downtown Winnipeg today for the supplies. The Clear Spring settlement was made up of settlers arriving on their own, mostly from southern Ontario, but Scotland and Ireland as well. They settled on their homestead quarters, got to know each other as they arrived, and majority of them were young men or young families. A number were former soldiers who had been promised free land in exchange for joining the military to quell the Riel uprising. The Mennonites came in larger numbers and in family groups, including grandparents. The Mennonites also pooled their homesteads and formed villages using a common street where all lived, with a community pasture for livestock, sharing of large gardens, and the workload of the community. This made for a tight community where support was available for everyone. Steinbach settlement was developed in the river lot system, similar to what the French and Métis communities were built along the riverbanks. Steinbach is the only non-French community in Western Canada to be planned in this way. The Clear Spring people thought the Mennonites were wonderful people, though found their ways a bit strange. They were industrious beavers at work, honest, sober, law-abiding, and very religious with a quaint foreign look. The Clear Spring settlers taught the Mennonites how to build sturdy log structures, while the Mennonites taught them different farming techniques and selective horse breeding. There was little to no intermarriage, and social life was definitely separate. There were many joint business ventures, including logging, threshings, and sawmills. Clear Spring settlers left a mark on Steinbach that exists today with the naming of our different areas. Familiar names like William Akers, Peter Keating, Robert Borland, Henry Lund, Tom Carlton, John Langill, and Clear Spring all remembered in their naming of our roads or subdivisions. Other names like William Lang or William Mooney, those families and their descendants still have landholdings in and around Steinbach. And William Hespler is remembered for his role with the road named after him here in Steinbach. This opening, I was going to tell the story of how Old Tom got its name, or Old Tom Road got its name, which is named after Tom Carlton, who owned the quarter today where the Heritage Cemetery and the Red River School is located. But reading through the history and all the different issues, I thought it was important to mention more about our Clear Spring neighbors, so I'll keep that story for another opening. Much of this information was from a book written by Ed and Alice Lang titled Pioneers of Clear Springs. Well, this is just a very small bit of information among the many, many stories of our local history. It is interesting to look back and read about our forefathers and neighbors and how they contributed to our beginnings 150 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Siemens. Council, we have the agenda in front of us, looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of July 2nd, 2024, the regular council meeting. We've all had a chance to review, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Schweitzer, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor, is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, at this time I would like to ask for a motion to excuse Councillor Damien Penner. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we have no public hearings. We're a little bit before 7:45 for the delegation, so I think we'll move down to 8A, reports and recommendations from the city manager. This is the drainage complaint referring to 2014 Chrysler Gate. Mr. Working, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular file arose from an email sent by Mr. George and Mrs. Peg Penner on May the 10th. Council reviewed this at the May 21st, 2024 council meeting, and during that meeting referred the matter to administration for investigation and a report back. Our administration has done so. However, shortly after that direction from council was provided, administration was also in receipt of a further concern from an area property owner. So that particular issue, the information is also provided in this report. That was also investigated at the same time. So as a result, administration has combined both of those items in this report. In any event, the gist of the matter is with the excessive rainfall and cool temperatures experienced this spring, there were a number of not normally expected standing water and drainage concerns indicated by several property owners in Steinbach. These particular ones on Chrysler Gate and on Harmony Lane being two of them. Administration did review the particular area. The city's engineering department did inspect the area and was able to confirm that the area drainage swales that were designed and built that do affect the private lots that indicated concerns and are within the city's parkland abutting the properties were constructed according to the approved plans and that the verified elevations were within the city's tolerances. So in effect, they were built according to what was spec'd. As a result, there were no remedial measures to the drainage swales that were necessary, other than there was one minor recommendation by the city's engineer respecting the private property at 171 Harmony Lane, that the owner could proceed to make some minor surface modifications to help improve the surface water drainage for that property. However, there were no other recommendations by the city's engineering department for any further remedial measures. And based on that, the expectation was that the weather patterns would have changed dramatically since May. The city and other areas around town have continued to experience significant levels of rainfall. So while I think the immediate concerns based on what prompted the complaints in May have probably been alleviated. The ground conditions are still somewhat wet. However, the expectation is with the ongoing warmer weather and hopefully drier conditions that the issues will resolve themselves and the areas will be reestablished by way of existing ground cover and vegetation.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Okay, council, how do you feel, council? Does this answer the questions that we placed forward at that time in May? We're satisfied, so at this time, we'll take this as information. Okay, thank you. It is still before 7:45. I believe the event center update would most likely take a little bit longer than 4 minutes. So let's move to 9A, accounts payable. Back of the book. Council, we've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All's in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We've got the financial statements ending June 30th, 2024, also in the back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All's in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, on page 28, we have excavator license. Looks like we have one that's looking for approval. Council, how would you like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, second by Councillor Swagstra. Call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have business licenses for June 2024. That's on page 29. Council looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All's in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we've got 9E, we've got building permits for June 20th, 24. They are on page 30. Council, we're looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Swagstra, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had approximately $4 million in building permits in the month, roughly evenly split between residential and commercial slash industrial. So we continue to see strong growth in the city, and that's good to see.
Good. Anything further?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Anything further of council? Yes, council, I would definitely concur with Councillor Swagstra's comments. Matter of fact, I'm actually very impressed with how equal they are. They're just a couple hundred thousand, or less than a couple hundred thousand between the difference in values. And we've added another 6 dwelling units to our community. So it's looking like we are moving forward. Another good year in tow, and looking for a motion to approve, call for the question. All's in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are at 7:45. So council, this spring, I'd set up a task force, mayor's task force for physician recruitment and retention. And now they've met. We had some people in our community, doctors. I had a couple of council members on it, and now they have been met, deliberated, and they have a report to give us today, and it will be brought to us by Michelle Bazitny. So Michelle, thank you very much for coming. Michelle was the chair of the task force, and she is here to present to us. Thank you very much, Michelle, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and it's been a pleasure to serve on this committee. So when Mayor Earl, you and I chatted, a handful of months ago, and it was a real honor, that conversation, when you had said, you know what, Michelle, you'd be a great person to chair this committee. And now, a number of months later, here we are to report on our findings. So just a little bit of a background for everyone. And like I mentioned, when Mayor Earl and I chatted a number of months ago, he identified that the initial concerns determined that similarities in Steinbach today were also present in 2009 and were noted in the mayor's task force report at that time. They reflected a significant family physician shortage and access to primary care for citizens in the region. As a result, task force deployment was considered the best approach, as the small team of community members could focus on a short-term assignment that targeted specific goals. The committee members of this task force is an advisory board comprised of 2 city councillors, Susan Penner and Jake Siemens, 4 physicians, Dr. Christo Manar, Dr. Dennis Page, Dr. Karen Taves, Dr. Curtis Cron, and myself as chair, Michelle Bazitny, Director of Economic Development, Steinbach Economic Development Corporation. Other individuals and organizations were also invited to participate as special resources, but not appointed as task force members. So we were asked to highlight and go through a few questions, and we'll flow through this presentation. And some of the questions the task force addressed were: what is the status of family medicine, family physicians in the city of Steinbach? What current measures are being undertaken within the city and area? What advisable measures could be taken within the city of Steinbach and the surrounding area to improve family physician recruitment? So we'll look at the first one. Status of family primary care physicians in Steinbach. And this identified the needs. So currently, Steinbach has the greatest need in Southern Health Santé Sud, and can be attributed, or some of it can be attributed, by the significant growth that we've received recently. So between 2016 and 2021, Steinbach experienced a growth rate of 11.4%, one of the highest in the province. Based on recent data from World Population Review, Steinbach's population growth rate has been approximately 2.13% annually since 2021. Based on very conservative measures or numbers, Southern Health and Santé Sud estimates that for the Steinbach area, 10 full-time physicians or the equivalent would need to be recruited to begin addressing the current needs. 3 new full-time physicians in addition to filling the current 7 vacancies. Note, this does not account for population growth or attrition, such as retirements or relocation. The estimates for the number of physicians needed for the Steinbach area have been formed by several factors. Some of these are the estimated physician panel size, population base in Steinbach and Hanover, rural physician model, and family doctor finder registry numbers. The Family Doctor Finder registry list is not an exhaustive list, but does not necessarily represent the full list of citizens requiring a family physician. Based on estimates, the recent stats as of June 2027-2024 indicate that 3,962 citizens do not currently have a primary care provider, and 442 have a primary care provider but are often wanting care closer to home. Thirdly, the rural family primary care physician model is typically as roles in addition to the clinic primary care role. So these are the physicians. These can include operating room assists, emergency room coverage, inpatient hospital coverage, obstetrics, clinical teaching, etc. The trend has shifted where physicians are choosing to practice in a specialized field such as emergency or inpatient hospital coverage and leaving family practice altogether. As a result, the rural family primary care physician model is no longer the typical model as was in the past. This further identifies the need for family primary care physicians. So what are current measures in place for family physician recruitment and retention? Let's take a look at 3 points. Firstly, what's being done in the city of Steinbach is the resident family physician education. This area regularly hosts educational events for physician residents. Secondly, Home for the Summer program. The Home for the Summer program in Steinbach provides healthcare students with hands-on experience in rural areas. This initiative, supported by Shared Health Manitoba, aims to expose students to the unique healthcare needs of communities, encouraging them to consider rural practice in their future careers. The program typically includes placements at local healthcare facilities, giving students the opportunity to work alongside experienced healthcare professionals and participate in community events and activities. Thirdly, Steinbach Family Medical Teaching Program. The Steinbach Family Medical Clinic is an active participant in medical education through its affiliation with the University of Manitoba. Steinbach Family Medical hosts both third and fourth year medical students and family medicine residents. The training program at Steinbach Family Medical emphasizes direct patient interaction, which is crucial for the development of practical skills in medical students and residents. The program aids in the education of future physicians and also assists in recruiting and retaining medical professionals in the community. So when the task force was, we met a number of times, and we'd like to present some actionable items, and here are some priorities and recommendations that we would like to explore. So, number 1, increased intake of students from Steinbach and area. The task force and City Council may have a role to play when considering advocacy and increased intake of medical students from Steinbach and area. Advocacy efforts aligning with the provincial government's priority to increase access to healthcare for the province of Manitoba will benefit the region. As highlighted, Steinbach is an area with one of the highest needs for primary care family physicians in the Southern Health Saint-Isoud region. The task force has identified that a high percentage of local residents who study, then practice medicine, will stay in the local community after completing their studies and residency. In 2024, the province expanded the number of available residencies by 17 spots for a total of 173, and all are filled. Rural opportunities are appealing for family medicine, and the majority of family medicine training seats this year are located outside the city of Winnipeg. Our recommendation is for the municipal government to advocate for designated spots for Steinbach and area medical students. Therefore, increase in intake for those who live in the region, those who are qualified to proceed with medical studies, and those who will proceed with physician residency and a permanent position in the community. The goal for these students to continue with involvement in the community of which they call home, and as they are more likely to stay in the communities they grew up in. Secondly, Third-party recruitment. Noting the urgent need for family physicians in Steinbach and area, I have connected with Waterford Global. In fact, I attended a function at the RBC Convention Center with them in fall, and they are an executive search and talent advisory firm headquartered in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Founded in 2006, the firm specializes in recruiting mid to senior professional and executive level talent across various sectors, including healthcare. Waterford Global is equipped to conduct local, regional, national, and international searches. Their extensive network and advanced tools enable them to attract top talent from around the world. They have an inventory of practice-ready family physicians who have selected rural Manitoba, and their highly specialized approach to recruitment would have the individual practicing in Steinbach within 3 to 6 months. Waterford Global works directly with the community. That could be potentially with the task force, it could be Steinbach Economic Development Corporation, and the Regional Health Authority to fill identified gaps. Thirdly, the current family physician resident students. 12 physician resident students have chosen Steinbach to complete their residency, and they are at different stages of their training. These student residents are Steinbach's low-hanging fruit, as they have already selected Steinbach to fulfill residency requirements. Approximately 50% of resident physicians stay in the community they practice in, and most remain in family medicine, with a select few choosing to specialize. Through intentional interviews and survey feedback with these physician residents, the task force will be able to better determine and understand what is important to them and be better equipped to implement strategies for developing a long-term plan for medical student residency retention and recruitment. This action is currently underway. Of the 12 residency students, 6 new residents have arrived at the beginning of Steinbach, with one having purchased a home in Steinbach. Within the next month or so, the task force intends to coordinate and host a reception for the 12 residents and their families. Gifting a welcome basket tailored to their interest at this event would be an opportunity to celebrate this group having chosen our community to proceed with residency. Like-minded host families have been identified as providing a support to the physician residents and families throughout their residency. The task force is currently seeking 12 host families to meet this objective and align the meeting of host families with residents on continuity day at the end of September. Host families provide a connection to the community and build relationships where the resident physician and family feel cared for and supported. And fourthly, our fourth recommendation, which is community liaison service. The long-term goal of the task force is to provide ongoing support to family physician recruitment and retention, which could potentially include targets in addition to family/primary care physicians, such as nurse practitioners, physician assistants, specialists, etc. This community liaison service could provide future project development by incorporating objectives to meet the needs of healthcare professionals, such as access to 24/7 childcare, housing, host family alignment, partner/dependent employment opportunities, community events, etc. Steinbach Economic Development Corporation would be equipped to oversee the community liaison service, with the task force providing ongoing leadership and input. Budget. For your consideration. So let's take a look at point number 1. Increased intake of students from Steinbach and area, which is predominantly advocacy, no funds. Third-party recruitment. Waterford Global's fee for service is $90,000 per physician for a 4-year return of service agreement. Thirdly, current family physician resident students, and we chatted about the welcome reception, which would include baskets for the 12 residences, total between $4,500 and $5,100. Community liaison service, a higher position that we would recommend 5 hours per week for an annual fee of $15,000. So the total ask on behalf of the task force is $20,000, plus Waterford Global's fee for service per physician. Third-party recruitment and its fee for service could potentially be a partnership between the municipal and provincial governments. In closing, access to family physicians has a significant impact on economic development in several ways. Number one, improved healthcare. Family physicians play a crucial role in the early detection and management of chronic diseases, reducing overall healthcare costs and improving the workforce's health. Healthier individuals are more productive and have fewer absences from work, contributing positively to the economy. Number two, attracting businesses. Companies often consider the availability of healthcare services when choosing locations for their operations. Access to reliable family healthcare can be a deciding factor, making areas with good medical services more attractive for business investments. Number three, supporting workforce retention. Quality healthcare services, including access to family physicians, are essential for retaining employees. Workers are more likely to stay in areas where their healthcare needs and those of their families are met, reducing turnover rates and associated costs for businesses. And finally, number four, enhancing quality of life. Access to family physicians enhances the overall quality of life for citizens, making communities more livable. This can attract skilled professionals and their families to the area, fostering a diverse and qualified workforce that supports economic growth, innovation, and stability. Access to family physicians contributes to a healthier workforce, attracts business, supports workforce retention, and enhances the overall quality of life, all of which are vital components of a robust economic development community. Steinbach Economic Development Corporation and the Mayor's Doctors Recruitment Task Force are committed to providing collaborative leadership together with Council as we continue the very important work of enhancing the quality of life for all citizens and businesses in the region. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you very much for leading the team. You had a wonderful team, and I know that they all contributed well, and we thank you very much for your findings and giving actually a pathway to go down. Like this is what we were looking for, and we realize it's not just a one-stop fix. There's a few things that need to be done, and they need to be done creatively and differently. But I do want to thank you very much for the time you put into this, and I want to thank the whole team. I think they did a fantastic job, came up with some great things, and one of my biggest concerns was that we would get a very good final recommendation, and we did, because I don't want to be doing this again in 10 years like we did in 2009 and then now in 2024. I would like this to be the final chapter, and now we move forward. Thank you. Anything of council? Councillor Penner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to add and comment maybe on one of Michelle's points. Having had the opportunity to sit on the committee, it was very eye-opening. I learned a lot, and as per the first recommendation when it talks about designating seats to students from our area, it was interesting. I've had the opportunity to talk to doctors both on the committee and ones who weren't a part of the committee, and it's interesting how important family and friends and relationships are to them as well, just like they are to everybody else. We've got these situations where doctors who are not from the area are practicing here. Maybe they even buy a house here and live here for a while. But once they start having kids and having a family, they want to be closer to home, and they end up moving away. Even though they don't have any complaints about Steinbach, but family draws them back to where they're from. The reality is that if doctors are from here they're more likely to stay. And if they're not from here, they're more likely to leave. And the odds of Steinbach having enough doctors would be greatly improved if we would allow more of our students into med school, if more of our students would be allowed into med school. The other piece of that is not that there's not strong candidates from Steinbach. There are many local qualified students who've been trying to get into med school for years now. But it's not happening for whatever reason. So designating these spots, I think, just will allow a greater chance of us fulfilling that need for long-term resident or long-term doctors that will stay in our area because it's their home and it's their community.
You know, Council, I just want to, if I can just add to what Councillor Penner said. Last week Thursday, we had Minister Ian Bushy, the Minister of Northern and Municipal Relationships. And we took him for a tour through Steinbach to show him what we're all doing in Steinbach and some of the challenges going forward. And so he got stuck in the back seat with me. So I had his ear for the whole hour and a half tour. And actually, Dr. Recruitment did come up, like, because we drove by the hospitals to show him the expansion there. And so we got to talk about doctors and we talked exactly about that, how when someone's raised in the community and they go off to school, they will come back and they will practice that trade in their community and they'll stay there and benefit the community. And that's when we talked about like areas like Steinbach, where we have a regional healthcare facility. There's other areas in our community too, in our province too. I said, would it not be fair for in order to keep doctors in Manitoba, areas that have medical facilities, to allow a certain number of seats per capita in the medical school? And, you know, he was very agreeable to it, but of course, he couldn't, I mean, no decisions can be made in the back of a van, right? Like, it has to be, they have to go through legislature. But I do believe, Council, this is one area where we can advocate. We can write letters, we can ask ministers to come down to Steinbach, and we can keep putting this in front of them. And this is not a bad idea, that to have designated seats in the medical schools for areas in our province that have regional facilities. Because then the whole region can get together, and if they're allowing whatever it works out to be, 5 to 10 per regional healthcare authority, it would definitely, over years, it would take care of the doctor recruitment that we need to do, because the doctors would stay. Because exactly as Councillor Penner said, they'd be, as they start to get married, they have children, they will stay because grandparents are there and extended family is there. And that is really where we find our peace and satisfaction in getting together as family. So this is one place where I think we should really advocate. I think we need to take the rest of this recommendation, this package, and look at it and look at it from a budget point of view, so that we can see what we need to do on council to start doing some of these things and working together with the Bethesda Foundation and the Bethesda Hospital, the doctors that are here, because I think, I personally, I would hate that in 10 years, when I'm no longer mayor, we have to have another task force like this. I don't want to do that. I want to act now and get this done and look at the healthcare and increase the healthcare for our community right now. And I know it didn't happen overnight. It won't get fixed overnight, but every small step is a step in the right direction. Anything further, Council? Councillor Swift.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Michelle, I thank you for your presentation. I think you've given us some very helpful recommendations. And I will just comment that what I appreciate about the recommendations is that you're taking a long-term approach. This is a problem that didn't arise right away. It's taken a long time. And one of my big concerns about delving too far into this area is, of course, this is a provincial issue, but it affects municipalities. What I appreciate about the recommendations is that they're very targeted in scope. I fully agree with the comments made by Mayor Funk and Councillor Penner about the advocacy in regards to designated seats. And I think the advantage to that is that that's something that benefits the entire province. That's the entire province. That's not just our area. If each rural area, if you divide it up into those areas, you have a certain number of seats designated for people from that area, because we know that people who are from the area are more likely to stay in that area when they're done. That much is obvious. So again, I thank you for your recommendations, and I do have one quick question on the recruitment firm, Waterford, with the cost. What is the track record for? I know that they get a 4-year return of service. Did they give any indication as to do these doctors that they recruit stay beyond the 4 years? Do they have any kind of record of that?
I didn't ask that question, but that's where the task force could come in with that community liaison service, right? When we're talking about relationships and when we're talking about support, so the return for service would be the 4 years of which we've highlighted, but that's where Steinbach would be able to really excel. And to Susan's comment about, okay, well, let's get you connected to the community events, employment, childcare, education, whatever it could look like. So specifically to your question, I did not ask them that, but I feel that there would be a pathway for Steinbach to be significantly involved in that 4-year process.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further, Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've taken a lot of the steam out of what I was going to say, so I won't repeat what you said. But Michelle, I appreciate your leadership in this role. It was very eye-opening when we listened to the different stories the doctors had to share, as well as some of the guests that we had at the table who were former recruitment people who had worked in the various locations around the province. And then hearing also the frustrations that the different doctors had with residency and people, the doctors that came in for 2 years and then chose to go back into training or leave. But we also heard some great stories of exactly as Councillor Penner said, of a doctor that does residency here, moves here, lives here, but then they had children they needed to be closer to parents in the city, but still drives in every day and is very busy, and one of our focus leaders, doctor leaders in our clinics and so on. And also how doctors have changed. We've heard how doctors used to have rosters of 2,000 patients, and they would take care of them from infancy to senior role, how that has changed. And so doctors are specializing. They don't want to work for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like we heard from some of the doctors that have just retired. The history of how they work, there are still some of the old school, if that's what it is, mentality. We still have some of those here that are still focused on that. So this isn't a one and done solution, but I appreciate also the suggestions that we worked through, and hopefully we can put those supports in place, because that's what it is. It's all about the relationships, it's about the community. It's a healthy relationship with doctors, and many in the medical field will give us a healthy community, literally, both economically and health-wise, so I think it's good. But again, thank you for your leadership for those couple of meetings. That I really enjoyed it, and I have read that book.
You did. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. Well, I have nothing left to say either, other than a big thank you again for taking on the job, and a thank you for coming forward. I agree with the comments that were said. I love that this is a long-term approach. This is again, we all agree it's not going to fix, we're not going to fix it tomorrow, but I do believe every small step in this direction is going to make a difference, and it will fix it over time.
Right.
Thank you very much for presenting and for all the work that was done on this recommendation you gave us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, council, we'll go to 8A. This is, or 8B, this is the Event Center update. Info to follow. It starts on page 10. Oh, page 10 is something different. So Adam, you'll be doing this presentation?
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Spent a little bit of time with our operations manager and Rustic, our Parks and Rec manager, and to pull together some information about the project. Yeah, so I'll run through some of the major components that have progressed over the last few months and some highlights we expect to see going forward over the summer here. So starting off a little bit low to the ground, our east parking lot expansion well underway with the base material in place. We expect to see quite a bit of extra parking on the site when it's all completed. At one point it was explained about roughly the equivalent of the Walmart parking lot is what we're adding to the site. So it will be significantly more to support the bigger events we expect to see happening. Moving on into the front of the building there. So last time we looked at the building back in April, none of the community hall or gym had risen from the ground just yet, but just last week we had the concrete floors going in, and you can see the structure's well underway. Roofing will be coming along in the next month or two, certainly. And then, of course, once it's fully sealed in, the finishing work can begin. Moving north into the Arena Bowl, that portion of the building is largely sealed off, so some of the interior framing is starting to move ahead. So we've got the second floor washrooms you can see in this area here are taking shape. The food canteen area will be back just past that. That hasn't quite started yet, but that'll be coming along as well in the next few months. There we go. Oh, one too many. AV room and press box is another piece of the framing that's moving ahead right now. Just making sure there's enough room for people to control the sound and the video screens and media commentary and such. Probably the most expensive thing that's going on right now is the work taking place on the floor.
That's good. You can be standing back here.
It's a bit of a panorama of the inside of the arena just last week, and gives you kind of a good snapshot of all the layers that actually go into building the floor so that it's going to last and do a good job for us. So you can see we've got some concrete right on the bottom, and then these black lines here are actually heat pipes. And that's to protect the structure underneath from permafrost that can happen if you've got ice in all year long. And you've got some sand to protect the pipes after that. The white material you see there is insulation. And then on top of that, there'll be another 6-inch layer of concrete with the refrigeration lines installed to actually make the ice in the end. So that work will be continuing and certainly should be done by the end of this next quarter here. Moving back to the front of the building, our atrium. Last time we took a look, it was just a concrete pad, but now we've got the glue lam beams and the structure all put up in place. The picture at the top left there is what you'd see walking in the future front entrance of the building, with the kitchen to the right and the walking track up top. And then the picture on the, sorry, that was the picture on the left. The picture on the right is looking down from the top of the stairs where people would be entering into the Arena Bowl. So you can see where people would be able to move on down to the community hall and gym over in this side here. And then here we have a view from the kitchen space. So this is a big one where we're going to see a lot of work going on in the next couple weeks. They're going to start framing here, getting things ready for all the equipment that needs to go in there. exterior weatherproofing and sheeting, that's been ongoing for a few months already, but it's a big component. It's a really labor-intensive system that's in place there, but it's something we expect to see completed in the next few months, with the arena bowl mostly complete, and then the siding should also start going on in the next month or two here. So it's going to start looking a little more like the finished product over the next few months from the outside. And here's one of the things that really has a big effect on that final look, is all the glass is kind of a big impressive feature about the front of the building, and that's starting to come in already as well. It's exciting to see. A little update on the financial side of things. So far, we've seen $43.6 million worth of billings from Graham Construction, representing about 63% of the total project cost, and largely we are on track to meet our 2024 completion deadline based on just what they've billed so far. And then, yeah, finally, just an overall snapshot of the whole site to kind of get a visualization of how things have moved along in the last few months. It's pretty impressive to see how much of the buildings come up in just a few months, and all the work that's going on inside as well. One thing I forgot to mention actually about the Arena Bowl is the ice plant is well underway as well, and that's expected to be running no problem for the TG Smith in August for minor hockey. So that's all working out well. Any questions of council?
Well, it's quite more impressive building than I thought it was going to be. In my mind's eye, when I imagined it, I didn't realize it was this big. Sometimes going by it, I wonder what are we doing? but no, it's an impressive building. It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of our real jewels for our community. But council, are there any comments or questions?
Get her done.
There you have it.
Thank you.
Finish it off. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very good to see, get a progress report on it. Okay, council, we'll resume at 9F. This is on page 32, minor subdivisions. These are subdivisions that our staff have taken care of because they fall in the percentage that they're allowed to. Just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then the next page, on page 33, we have minor variances. Same story. These are they're within the tolerances and that our staff can do. We just have to ratify them now. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Swaystra, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we've got 9H. This is subdivision 4451 2024 8986. This is referring to 243 and 247 Main. Mr. Worthing, would you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, this subdivision file affecting 243 and 247 Main Street has been submitted requesting council's consideration and approval. It is affecting property on Main Street that was subject to a property fire in July of 2022 in which the existing structure on site was destroyed. The proposal is proposing to create two lots out of an existing single lot, with the property having a zoning of C2, which is commercial community. The property is rather unique in that it has frontage on three streets, being Main Street, Friesen Avenue, and Elmdale Street in Steinbach. And it is located within the city's central business district. and planned overlay district, which does encourage a variety of uses. However, at this point, there is no other detail on file as to what is proposed. However, the current zoning is there and does permit a variety of retail and commercial type of uses. Community planning correspondence does indicate no concerns with the approval. Should council proceed to approve the subdivision application, recommendation from administration is council approve the subdivision subject to a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision.
Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it makes sense for us to go ahead with this. We know that this property, had experienced that fire, and so we're certainly looking forward to development happening there. It's prime property. It's in our downtown. Splitting it up into two properties makes sense. Our staff are recommending it. Both of the properties will have appropriate frontage because of the fact that they're on multiple streets. And so we don't have more information as to what is going to go there, but I'm certain that it will be something that will be benefit our city and benefit the downtown.
Thank you. Anything further?
I agree with what the Councillor Schweikster just said. As indicated, this is a lot that's resulting as the result of a fire in July of 2022. It's 1.5 acres. It's a big piece of land. It's right on Main Street. It's sort of a hole on Main Street. And it'd really be nice to see this go ahead and looking for future development on this land. So we're aware of who the builder is and stuff, and so we look forward to it.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing? Okay, council, will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we have 9I. This is bylaw 2198. This is Elmdale Street Widening. We'll be doing first and second reading today. It starts on page 66. And Mr. Workendine, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, bylaw 2198 is the proposed widening for Elmdale Street, and particularly at the corner of Elmdale Street and Reimer Avenue. This is more of a housekeeping matter as it is tied to a subdivision, consolidation, and redevelopment of the existing arena site just adjacent to it. Recommendation from administration is for council to give this bylaw first and second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councilor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second by Councilor Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the city manager noted, this is pretty straightforward. This is part of the event center development. We want to ensure the city is prepared long-term when this intersection is revamped.
Thank you. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Council, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we'll go directly into second reading. Looking for a motion for second reading. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No further comment.
Anything further of council? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Council, are there any questions of council? Okay, seeing none, there's no correspondence petitions, no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m.